Is why it is long overdue for organizations like the FBI and the DOJ to step in and investigate. And over the weekend, we learned that it looks like the FBI may be doing just that. The Voter Integrity Project and the Amistad Project of the Thomas More Society, two organizations committed to election integrity, have been doing their own digging into election fraud, specifically cultivating data on illegal ballots over the weekend. Phillip Kline, director of the Amistad Project, confirmed in a statement that, quote, the FBI has now requested and will receive all of their findings that indicate illegal ballots being cast. This after their data showed hundreds of thousands of potentially fraudulent ballots in battleground states. We want to welcome now Phillip Kline. He is the director of the Amistad Project, as we mentioned, and former Attorney General of the state of Kansas. General, welcome to the program. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
So should we take this as a good sign? The FBI is requesting data. I tweeted your tweet that said this is the first I've even really heard of any FBI investigation whatsoever.
Well, it is a good sign, and there are actually other investigations ongoing, which we cannot speak about, that are good questions for the Federal Bureau of Investigation. But what our data shows is what we call the blood in the street. It's after the crime is committed, and what evidence is there to show that a crime has been committed. And we have identified hundreds of thousands of ballots. Now, we do this by reaching out to voters. We crunch the data from the government, and we actually contact the voter, and we see if what they say they did is reflected accurately in the voting rolls. And we've come up with tens of thousands of Republican ballots that were not counted. We've come up with hundreds of thousands of Republicans who say they never requested a ballot, but they voted absentee by somebody else. We've identified people outside of the state who voted within the state. And all of this occurred in the key swing states that we're speaking about. And there's also one other important point to make about all of these areas. All of them had hundreds of millions of dollars poured into their election offices by Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg poured in $400 million into this election, matching the federal government expenditure. And through his charities, they paid the election judges, they paid the people who boarded up the windows, they bought the machines, and America was kicked out of the counting room and a billionaire invited in all of these swing state urban core cities. And that is a violation of law.
For everybody at home, I want to remind you, we're talking with Attorney General Kline, the former Attorney General of the state of Kansas. This is not just some guy we picked up off the street. General, these are very strong allegations to link Zuckerberg to this. You're saying that big tech then would ultimately be behind what would become, if this is true, the greatest heist in American history, a huge political grab to take the White House.
Big tech's fingerprints are all over it. I'll give you an example. We obtained, pursuant to court order in a lawsuit in the Middle District of Pennsylvania, the communications between the city of Philadelphia and the charity that Zuckerberg gave $350 million to. And here's what those communications said. They dictated to the city of Philadelphia the number of polling places they would have. They dictated to the city of Philadelphia who would staff those polling places. They said that they would pay the salaries of these persons and that they would pay buy the machines. And if Philadelphia didn't achieve those goals, they pull all their money back. Now, as we dive down into their impact, I just want to give you one more example. They reached out to the blue state or Democrat strongholds, and they made it very easy to vote by purchasing these election offices. They are the ones who put out the drop boxes and paid for them. In Democrat stronghold, Delaware County.
How do you end up proving this, that it flips the election? What's your remedy here as these states are certifying, the clock is ticking? How do you get there?
Well, that's what we were speaking about earlier. We show all of these changes to benefit Democrat strongholds as they were suppressing the vote in Republican strongholds. And then we had them sidestepping the law and accepting ballots they should not have accepted. So our experts and you've spoken about some of them on your show, have done the analysis, and we're talking about hundreds of thousands of ballots in each one of these swing states. There's over 500,000 ballots affected in Michigan. There's over 100,000
So, General,
ballots.
can the states, can the courts just throw out the election? I mean, what is the answer here? That's what we need to know real quick because we're running out of time.
Well, yes, there is an avenue because we treated voters differently. Because of all this private money, we treated Democrat voters differently than we treated Republican voters. That is a classic, what you call violation of equal protection, a violation of Bush v. Gore, and the Supreme Court ought to hear that case, and they ought to refuse to accept this election.
All right, well, if it's okay with you, I want to stay in contact with you over we move through this the next few days because this is absolutely powerful information that you're laying out for us, and somebody's got to get to the bottom of it. We appreciate you doing it. Phillip Kline, thank you so much for coming on the program, former Attorney General of the state of Kansas and now with the Amistad Project. We appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.